Look, I've already told you it wasn't my fault. It were Ray's idea. He bet me I couldn't get away with it.
It's you looking and acting so daft that gave him the idea. He wouldn't have dreamt it up if he'd been normal.
I'm only a bit slow, that's all.
That was a bit strong, Sandra. Big loony. He should have more sense than to take Ray on, making a public spectacle out of somebody like him.
It seems to me Ray's the one that needs more sense.
Oh, how'd you make that out? It weren't Ray who dressed himself up.
Like Bernard says, it was Ray's idea in the first place.
What's that got to do with it, any Rose?
Oh, I see.
You see what?
It's no good blaming Ray, not to you, anyway.
No, it isn't.
And every time he answered a question, poor Bernie's voice seemed to get deeper and deeper. He had every copper in the station laughing, and they even came in off the beat to have a peep at him. But, you know, coming home were the best. He pushed me from Clarence Street to here without touching one main road. We went down back alleys, through Ginnells, along Canal Bank, anywhere where we wouldn't be spotted. He covered miles at a very fast trot.
Are they going to summon him?
Oh, well, Bernie thinks they're going to transport him, and he's sure he'll make front page at News at World.
Oh, poor Bernard. It was something of a rash escapade, Raymond.
Oh, rash, I don't. It seems to have done him good.
Oh, you're right there, Mrs. Sharples. I've not grinned so much since the day they told me I was paralysed.
Well, not the doctor I've seen coming out of here a bit since.
Yes, and he's very optimistic.
Oh, yeah, I wiggled both my big toes for him, and he went potty. Jumped about, he did. You'd think I'd have promised to leave his daughter alone.
Yeah, talking of daughters, you and your Sandra Butler seem to have a lot of time for each other these days.
Aye, she's dead unlucky, Sandra, isn't she? I mean, normally she'd have found out me now what a rotten rotter I am. Instead, she thinks I'm a tragic, romantic figure. Still, things will alter when I'm back on my pins, never fear.
I don't think they'll alter. I think they'll be the same between you and her, sitting in that wheelchair or not.
Are you matchmaking, Mrs. Sharples?
If she is, I hope she's not serious.
And why shouldn't I be serious?
Because I've only moved my big toes so far. I don't know how many muscles and sinews I've got in my legs, but there must be a hell of a lot. And until I can move every one of them, there'll be no matchmaking, Mrs. Sharples. Not with anybody. All right?
All right.
Was that wise, to upset him like that?
I've told him now what he doesn't know already.
I'd just like Mr. Walker's opinion, that's all.
Mrs. Ogden, I make the decisions concerning matters connected with you and your employment here, not Mr. Walker.
Now, what's it say over that door? Front door, go on, tell me.
Well, it says... You know very well what it says.
It says, Jack Walker, licensed to sell beers, wines and spirits, which indicates to all and sundry and me that it's Mr. Walker what's boss of this establishment, not Mrs. Walker.
Very well, I will call him. If you want Solomon, you shall have him. Jack! Jack!
All right. I'm only in the lobby, not Siberia.
Jack, Mrs. Ogden has made a request which I have refused, and apparently she wants you to confirm my refusal.
A request?
That's right, Mr. Walker.
What sort of request?
Well, she's got the
Now, Mrs. Walker, it's my request. I think I should be allowed to state it.
Oh, go on, Hilda.
Well, you see, it's like this. Now, in the event of somewhat happening, which at the moment I'm not at liberty to confide, I wanted to know if I could start here sooner so as I can finish sooner.
And I have refused to even discuss the matter. Employees should consider the views of employers and not vice versa, although I admit that's an old-fashioned view nowadays.
Very old-fashioned. I mean, employers have been considering the convenience of my stand, for instance, for years.
Now, Jack, dear, what is your decision? Though I admit it's purely a formality asking you.
Yes. Well, yes, well...
There's no need to stammer, Jack.
Well, am I to understand, Hilda, that if this somewhat that might happen doesn't happen, there'll be no need to change your hours?
That's right, Mr. Walker.
Well, what's the idea of creating a fuss over something that might not happen?
There's no point
Of
at all.
course there's a point.
Hang on, Annie. We'll wait and see. Will that do, Hilda?
Perfectly, Mr. Walker. And I'm glad I come to the head of the house. Very glad. I'll be in touch.
Well, she wanted the judgment of Solomon and she got it. Oh, yes. You know, life, to you, Jack Walker, consists of a succession of side steps out of the path of trouble.
Aye, and you spend your time sidestepping into trouble.
Because, Jack, trouble gives life a little spice.
Here's 20 fags, Jack, will you?
Oh, yeah. How do you do? How do you do? I'll have to get some from the back.
There's no hurry.
I still think it's a bit much avoiding going into a shop with
Oh, what's the point when you can get away?
But how much do you really go for Maggie, Clegg?
Passionately, love. It's something I can't control.
Fact, love, I'm serious.
Look, love, Maggie and me get on. We always have right from the beginning. But we get on. There's nothing more.
I'll have to believe you, won't I?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, though.
What?
I haven't had a bird being jealous over me for a long time. I like it.
Yeah, well, you're the first fella who's made me jealous. For a while.
Thanks. Sorry, Jack.
I'll see you later, eh?
Come on, make your minds up. I'm beginning to feel uncomfortable.
Do you know what I think?
What I think.
That style suits her.
Yeah, it does. And I've been sitting here for 5 minutes like somebody in a shop window waiting for you both to tell me I'll do as I am. Thought the idea was to change me image. Unless.
What?
Unless we tried it with a wig. No, thanks. I don't mind a different style, but I'm not hiding my hair under somebody else's. Well, we tried, didn't we?
Just a shampoo and set, then.
Just a shampoo and set. There isn't much profit in it, but we do our best. Oh, I'll throw my shoe at you in a minute.
Did you, have a word with Anita, like I said?
Yes, I did.
And?
Well, she wasn't giving much away. And you're not being the help to me you promised, are you?
What can I do?
Well, you could have persuaded me to have a plait at least.
You can have two, you can have a fringe, but it still won't suit you.
I know.
Firstly, why is Sandra walking around in such a mood?
Oh, she's sulking because she thinks I criticised Ray.
Secondly, what has Mrs. Ogden got in her mind? She seems to think she has an appointment with me.
She has. You're going to give her a job as a cleaner.
You must be joking. I can't stand the woman.
Oh, please.
I thought you two were always at each other's throats.
Yeah, well, I owe her a favour, that's all. It was me that told her that David and Emma were, well, they had marriage problems.
Well, who hasn't?
Go on, please.
Okay, but it's your responsibility.
Thank you. Is there anything else, sir?
No, I don't think so, Mrs. Taylor. Oh, yes, there is one thing. Len would like us to be ready for 8 o'clock, all right?
Congratulations.
About what?
On remembering that we had a date.
Not at all.
Oh, and there's just one other thing I'd like you to do for me.
Yes?
Would you ask our Bernard if he'd go round and see Cyril Turpin? He just won't take any notice of me at all.
I'll try.
All right, Hilda. The job's yours. Everything's spick and span at 9:30 tomorrow. 5 bob an hour. How'll that do?
Oh, that'll do fine, Tar. I knew Mr. Howard would have me, you know. You can tell when somebody likes you, can't you?
I've a customer for you, Cyril. Official, I think.
Ah, now then, Bernard, have you come to confess you're the brains behind this gang of underwear thieves?
Oh, no, Mr. Turpin, I'm not Mr. Big.
Oh, what can I do for you then?
Well, it's like this, you see. Ray Langton had me this bet that I wouldn't dare dress up as a nurse and wheel
So
him
it
in
was
his...
you then, was it?
Oh, you've heard about it?
Oh,
then,
I'll
have you?
say I've heard about it, along with every lad in the force. Best laugh we've had since they abolished hanging.
Well, I wouldn't mind a bit of a laugh, but I can't unless I know what you're on about.
Well, it's like this, Maggie, as Ray says, Bernard says he has this bet with young Ray.
Yeah.
But they don't get away with it because 243 Wilkinson, a very proper copper, stops him on Manchester Road and whips poor state-registered nurse Bernard into the bridewell.
Dear.
It's better than going to the pictures.
Mr. Turpin, Sergeant.
Yes, lad?
It's not very funny for me, is it?
No, lad. Not funny at all. It's very, very serious.
Well, what do you think will happen? I mean, I was wondering if you might put a good word in for me, like.
Oh, I doubt it, lad. You see, the offence comes under a very ancient statute. And you know what ancient statutes are like?
No, I don't.
Well, they're very harsh. Life for stealing firewood, for instance.
Oh, blow me, no.
Oh, Cyril, stop torturing the lad. You're having him on.
I'm sorry.
Aren't you?
I couldn't resist it. Now, nothing's going to happen to you, Bernard. Not that I or the law can countenance men going about dressed as women, not even dressed as somebody as respectable as a nurse. But there's no offence in it, so long as I say, well, you weren't up to anything, well, you know, naughty.
Well, you reckon I can bank on keeping my freedom then, eh?
Definitely, lad.
Oh, well, that's a relief. I think.
Why do you only think?
Well, it's not everybody that gets their name in the news of the world, is it?
State registered nurse, Bernard. Oh, I'd love to have seen him.
Oh, me too.
And that's your last word, is it, Mrs. Walker?
Absolutely my last word. You'll attend when I say, or not at all. I'd rather do the work myself. I will not count out my cleaner.
Oh, well, suit yourself. I couldn't very well mix working at the salon with working here, anyhow. There's too big a difference, you see. I mean, surroundings at the salon being that much nicer. Not to mention the class of person you meet there. Right.
I'd say she won that little skirmish.
Do you really think so, Mrs.
I said
Sharp?
so, didn't I?
Well, we shall see. We shall see.
You'll never eat it.
Look, I was brought up on this delicacy. You know, our kids used to reckon 1 bottle of sauce to 4 pork pies.
I bet you don't eat it.
Oh.
I told you.
Well, not because I put too much sauce in it, it's just that they're salty, you know.
Liar.
Well?
Not on your Nelly.
Oh, come on. These were the last 2 pies in place. You can't see me starve.
Can't I?
No. I'd say hello, but I've got a mouthful of pie.
You always were a perfect gentleman, Raymond.
Judgment Day isn't today, is it?
Pardon?
From the look on your face, I thought it might be.
Bored more than anything else, Mrs. Sharples. The photography business doesn't exactly seethe in winter. And as you can see, I'm hardly in demand with the invalid either.
No, you're not.
You weren't serious, were you, about Ray and Sandra, well, getting married? It'd be marvellous, of course, terribly romantic, but Ray is vehemently opposed until he recovers.
Now, what's him being opposed got to do with it? Leave him alone with her long enough, and he won't be able to help himself.
What have you got trapped under there?
Sandwiches.
Sandwiches?
Anchovy.
Anchovy? I don't even know what it is. Never mind, like it. And in there?
Assorted cakes.
Oh, so that's where all the housekeeping money goes?
Actually, I bought the cakes out of my own pocket. Sandwiches,
Anchovy?
cakes,
Assorted?
and coffee, just awaiting the kettle in the kitchen.
Who's it all for?
Why, you and Sandra, who else?
Well, I don't think it's my birthday. I don't think it's Sandra's. I know, you're practising for when you get married.
Oh, don't be obtuse, Ray. I'm just ensuring that Sandra has a bite of supper.
Miss Nugent?
Hmm?
What makes you so sure that Sandra's going to come round here anyway to eat your anchovy sandwiches and assorted cakes?
Well, if she doesn't, I haven't exactly squandered an inheritance, have I? Well, I'm off.
Where? I think I've got a right to know where my house mother lets her hair down.
Ernest is taking me out for a meal to an Indian. Oh. He's very fond of Indian food. Eats curries of 3-star strength without so much as a grimace. I even struggle through the 1-star variety. I'm really hopelessly English.
My, you don't half live it up. You'll be burned out before you're 70.
Goodbye, then.
Farewell. Oh, and if you see any little urchins out in the street, tell them to pop in here and have a sandwich and a cake.
I bet you'd have got up to dance with Miss World.
Ah, beauty queens, they bore me, love. It's with having so many chasing after me.
Who are these for?
You. From Emily Nugent.
Me?
Yeah, well, she did think you were coming round to supper. Are you?
Don't you fancy the Rovers?
Oh, well, let's say I wouldn't develop a condition if I gave it a miss.
We'll stop in then.
Yeah. I mean, we don't want to disappoint Miss Nugent now, do we?
And 4 brandies,
And not for Elsie, it gives her heartburn. It's the only booze that does, though.
I will have another brandy, if you don't mind, Alan.
But the last time I took you out...
Yeah, but the difference is this time it's Alan that's taken me out and not you, Len. And I do wish you'd stop reminding me of the 2 or 3 times you took me to a posh restaurant.
Yes, I'll second that.
Me too. It could turn me all silent and moody.
I'm sorry, I should never have opened my big mouth.
Ah, now he's offended.
Ah, well, he is inclined to sulk, you know, especially when you choke on his doorstep.
Leonard.
Yeah?
If you listen very carefully, you can hear the whisper of cards being dealt and the click of a roulette wheel.
I can hear the dice being rattled and all. Shall we,
Flipping heck. It doesn't take them long to get fed up with us, does it?
I said we should have come on our own. A clutch in their wallets, of course.
Go on, scrap. But don't be surprised if we're stone out of our minds by the time you get back and we've drunk all the coffee.
Oh, not to mention the 4 brandy.
It just takes us long enough to break the bank.
10 minutes.
They get on well together, them two, don't they, pals?
Yeah. From what I've heard, you've been one of Len's biggest pals.
I know you didn't quite mean that the way that it sounded, but you're quite right. Len and I have been pals.
Have been.
Still are?
Look, tell me something, will you?
Sure, if it's not too personal. But you are going to be personal, I can see by the glint in your eye.
Well, why? When you've known him all this time, did you never marry him? Well, I mean, you seem very suited.
It's a good question, love.
I thought it was.
Well, you see, I've been married twice before in my life. First time I was young and daft, you know. Daft enough to fall in love at the drop of a hat.
And the second time?
Well, the second time still had a bit of love's young dream about it. But it soured up quite a lot after 20 years. It's just that... Well, each time I married, I meant those 3 little words. At the time.
But you never said them to Len?
No. There was always something. He's a very attractive fella. But the something wasn't quite enough to stretch the extra bit between romance and marriage.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I went out with a lad from being 14 till I was nearly 20. Childhood sweethearts made for each other. Our mothers had planned a wedding for 3 Junes on the trot. Then I went on holiday to Newquay and I met this young policeman. And you know, inside an hour I'd felt more collywobbles than I'd felt for Eric, that was my boyfriend, in 5 years.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, now we've sorted Len and me out, let's talk about the important people.
Such as?
You and Len.
Well, perhaps that's too personal.
Oh, no, it isn't, love.
Well, how do you mean?
Shows in your face every time you look at him.
Yeah, I had an idea it did. That extra something you were talking about.
Just for Len? Well, for your sake, love, I hope he feels the same way as you do.
What's up with her?
Now, Mrs. Sharples, don't pry. It's dangerous.
I bet I could guess a good guess as what's to do with it.
Now, it's none of your business.
Don't see how you can stop it being now.
I've discussed it with my husband, Mrs. Walker, and he thinks...
I haven't the slightest interest in what Mr. Ogden thinks.
Oh, well, if that's your attitude.
You were saying about Mr. Ogden?
Well, he thinks that in view of the close bond what's always existed between us as a family and the Rover's return, that I ought to help you out in your trouble.
Only until this heals, you understand?
Oh, certainly. There is just one other thing.
Is there?
It's a question of logical, you see.
Your logical... Your logic or Stan's?
Oh, Stan's.
I see.
Well, he sees the situation this way. Now, seeing as I now start my working day at the salon and come on here afterwards, well, coming on here will constitute overtime, won't it?
Indeed it will not.
Oh, Stan was very definite.
How much overtime would you want?
Time and a quarter. I'm not greedy, not being in a union, you see.
I've no choice, have I?
No, you haven't. Well, I'll get off home and get myself sorted out. I want to look nice for my proper job at the salon.
If I were you, Jack Walker, I'd go to a pictures tonight. Be safer than standing behind the bar with her.
Oh, that's a bit of a sweeping statement. All men prefer younger women. Ken says they frightened him. Well, that's what he tells me.
But that's one of the criticisms of the new divorce law, isn't it? You know, why it's called the Casanova's Charter.
What, wives are afraid their ageing husbands will desert them for little dolly birds,
Yeah.
you mean? Well, if Ken wants to desert me for a little dolly bird, good luck to him.
Oh, you can say that. After all the fuss you made when you found out somebody was writing him love letters.
I did not make a fuss.
Oh, all right, you didn't. Anyway, look at all the successful men who seem to end up with girls half their age.
Yes, but how long? Oh, it might be all right to show them off at parties or walk on the beach with them at Monte Carlo. But what happens when he wants a week of hot milk and early bedtimes and she's crooning the top of the pops in his ear? To quote Ken again.
Well, perhaps like seems to be happening to Len. You don't need a week of early bedtimes when you've got a young girlfriend.
No, I suppose not.
I can't just put Maggie in a sack and chuck her in the canal.
But you agree she must fancy, well, more than just like you.
Yeah, I suppose she must.
Oh, I mean, to come and, well, as good as try and warn me off you.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand.
No, she did, honest. She made the approach.
I'll believe you, love, but I didn't think that of Maggie. I thought Maggie was at least sensible.
Oh, you don't know a thing about women, do you?
You must be joking.
You don't. There's no such thing as a sensible woman when it comes to being serious about a fella.
And who's serious about me?
Maggie.
What about you?
Perhaps I don't like having to compete.
For the 10th time, darling, there is no competition.
Honest.
Scout's honour. And I was in the Brownies.
Then I'm serious about you.
Hey, you two, you'll have the place talked about.
Come on, Nita, let's dance. I think I've seen enough of these two for one night.
Yeah, they've only come back to play gooseberry anyway.
What's so funny?
Oh, nothing. It's just that it seems funny to think of me being here with you and Len being here with somebody else, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I think so.
Do you know, never in my wildest dreams could I have imagined being out with another fella and Len here, even if he had other distractions. You know, his thump fella's just been knocking the ash off his cigarette end.
Well, he's mellowed as the lad.
Yeah. Perhaps he has. Unless it's true.
Unless what's true?
Oh, nothing. Just something Anita said. Do you still hear from your wife?
Ex-wife.
Ex-wife? I hadn't forgotten.
No, I don't hear from her.
Oh.
Why do you ask?
Just curious.
Curious.
No, well, you see, the last time I went out with a fella for any length of time, it was Dave Smith. And his wife suddenly popped up in the middle of it. It was like a sort of rallying call. And it has happened before.
It won't happen in this case.
What makes you so sure?
Because of the way we broke it up.
Was it bad?
Yes, it was pretty bad. I'm not the forgiving kind, and neither is she. I thought she'd let me down, and she thought it went the other way. Well, we thrashed each other for about 6 months, sometimes in public. She wasted 12 years of my life.
Oh, come off it. You must have got something out of it. Everybody does, if only at the start.
6. That's about all. They're about the only moments that we weren't getting at each other.
All right. I believe you.
Believe me?
That she won't pop up again.
Good. Very good.
Why?
Well, I don't want you to think that there are ghosts from the past hanging around. I don't like ghosts.
Good. Very good.
You didn't say fake Volger or whatever?
Can't speak Chinese.
Aha. Hey, Red 18, it's got to be. Or bang goes me cotton plantation and me concubines, not to mention me fag-making machine.
Sorry, Lucky 35. Lucky for me, that is.
I don't want to play anymore. And I'm going to take me game home.
Spoil sport.
Well, I always was a bad loser. Many's the cricket match that's come to a sudden halt because I wouldn't be out.
I'm like that about fellas. They can't bear to lose one. That's why I always have a plain friend.
Well, nobody's going to pinch me off you, love.
Who said you were my fella?
You know, that's a very good question because there have been 1 or 2 hints made today about you and me.
What sort of hints?
Well, you know. Hints. Ridiculous, of course.
Why? Why ridiculous?
Now, look, don't you start. You know they're ridiculous.
I don't know anything of sort. Fate Volger or whatever.
Sandra,
Yeah.
would you really take me on? Marry me? Like this?
Tomorrow.
I know I should tell you to get lost.
Are you, though?
No.
Can I kiss you?
Well, I can't exactly run away now, can I?
Hey, you shouldn't be doing this. Not until I've given you something to drink and played some soft music.
I don't need those.
Nor me.